So now we have sprites, we want to start talking about collisions. Collisions are really fundamental to just about any game that we make. So I've created this as our starting point, basically a single sprite. Here it is. You can see it's a player sprite, arcade.sprite, and it's been appended to a player list. And of course I draw the player list and I update the player list, although it doesn't have a change X and change Y, so that's actually probably not doing anything. Doesn't hurt though. What I have done to make the player follow the cursor is I have, whenever the mouse is moved, I set the player sprite's X and Y coordinates to be the X and Y coordinates of the mouse at that moment. So what I want to do is have collisions. So I need something to collide with. So I thought what I might do is just grab this from our previous example. We're going to have a bunch of coins in the on the screen, which we will have moving around, and then we've got to pick them up as we go. So obviously that is going to go into the setup, paste it there, and as is usual when we paste something, we have some further issues to deal with. So obviously my indentation is incorrect, easy fix. And also it's got this random underlined here, which is a clue that I don't have import random. And of course I've just added a new sprite list, this coin list, so I need to draw it. Self.coinList.draw. And I should update it. I will update it. Self.coinList.update. So that's always important to check your code as you go along, not just assume you've done it all correctly. Hopefully we will see some coins. And there's my player. No collisions happening yet. So collisions, typically we detect collisions in the on update. So I'm going to go here and just referring, a common thing that we do is when we need to remember how to do something, we go back to some example code. So I've picked up on this one, which is a very similar example, and looked for the bit where we've got the collisions. And I can see here, this is the function that we're going to be using. So I'm just going to copy that function for the moment and go back to my code. And I'm going to say, I'm going to call it hit list, and we'll talk about why I've called it hit list in a minute. And it was that arcade.check for collision with list. So it's going to check a sprite, in this case my player sprite, autocomplete, thank you, against a list. Self.coin and autocomplete again, coin list. So that's the setup for this particular function in Python Arcade. We have a player sprite, so we have a sprite, that we check against a list, right? So another time we'll come back to thinking about how we check a list against a list. But right now we're just checking one sprite against a list because that's easily available to do. And what that creates is this hit list, which we can now work with. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a print statement. Right here, I'm going to say print len hit list. Okay, not the brackets. So len is the length of that function. All right. Not that function, the length of that list, how many things are in that list. Now, what we're expecting is most of the time that hit list is going to be empty. The length of that list will be 0 items in it. And it's only when my player sprite is colliding with something that we will see more than that. So if I touch the list, it goes to 1. See here, I've got 2 because I'm overlapping with 2 of them. 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. Okay, so you can see this hit list is a bunch of things, and there was a point there where I was overlapping 2 coins. So I was touching 2 coins. I had 2 items on my list. Most of the time, I either had 0 items I was touching or 1 item I was touching. what we could do, I wonder if this would be useful. If I say print hit list, I don't think it will, because it will show us just some, it will show us the list, but we'll see that it's not perhaps what we wanted. But we can kind of see it's an empty list, and then when I touch something, there's that there going on. I wanted to touch two things. And it says it's arcade.sprite sprite object. So the thing in the list is a sprite. So this arcade.check for collision with list returns a list of things that we are currently touching, and we can do whatever we want with that. So for instance, we could say pick that one thing out. So we could say hit list 0. So that's the first item in that list, and most of the time the only item in that list. Dot remove, I think remove from lists, remove from sprite lists is a function that I'm happy to know exists. This will cause the program to crash. Let's see it crash. We're waiting. There's our crash. List index out of range. And the reason we're getting that error is because there's no item in the list most of the time. As soon as I move the cursor, move the item onto the screen, we're generally not touching something else. So we have to deal with that. Are we still running here? No, we're not. So what we would often do is something like, if len hit list is greater than 0, then we take that 0th item and we remove it from a sprite list. So let's do that. That should work, I think. I haven't tried this. Okay, so bang, bang, bang. Yeah, that's working. What you will see, though, and this is particularly why I wanted to do this, is often in the examples, you'll see it done like this. They say something like for hit in hit list. And then they'll say hit dot remove from sprite lists. So what this is doing is saying loop through every item in the hit list. Now, if there's no items, nothing happens, it just carries on. If there is an item or even more than one item, then each item gets removed from a sprite list. Let's just check that that works, and then I think we're done for this video. So dang, dang, and yeah, so all good. It's working as expected. Good.